Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, the government getting ready to borrow more money from the IDB in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. An Eleuthera woman's death blamed on inadequate health care facilities. Alleged teenage burglars nabbed by police in southeastern New Providence this afternoon. Miles Monroe sounds off on the gambling referendum, and another potential F&M chairman steps forward. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige McCartney, and MB12 starts right now. Welcome once again to MB12. As government prepares to wrap up the New Providence Road Improvement Project with the help of a $77 million loan from the Inter-American Development Bank, government leaders today met with IDB and International Monetary Fund officials. Christina McNeil spoke to Prime Minister Perry Christie immediately following the discussions. Here's her report.
Cabinet ministers meeting with Inter-American Development Bank and International Monetary Fund officials this morning. This as the Prime Minister revealed that government is set to borrow additional money from the IDB to fund various projects in the country. Prime Minister Perry Christie says it is still too early to reveal just how much government will be borrowing from the IDB. However, he did have this to say about the upcoming loans.
It's something that we will talk about. We just completed the discussions, and it comes in the form of loans. And they have a program where we agree for a 3-year package that this is what we're going to do, and that it's funded. And really, the idea is to set targets and to make sure those targets are met.
Christie says today's meetings allowed some of the newer cabinet ministers to get a better understanding of how government works with the IMF and IDB.
And that is what we did this morning, with a view to zeroing in on the initiatives that would be taken, where monies would be used to do that. Those programs that will be specific programs where you borrow money to fund, and those programs that are what they call policy programs, where you are trying to strengthen and empower public officers in terms of initiatives to be taken.
The Prime Minister added that one of those projects may be related to disaster relief and preparedness throughout the family of islands. In the wake of Hurricane Sandy tearing through seawalls and flooding roads, Christie says he saw a need for better disaster preparedness. And working with the IDB to fund programs to improve the country, Christie says implementation and follow-through are essential to project management.
What conclusion is coming to us, if it hasn't been with us before, is that the preparation for minimizing the impacts of disaster is a year-round activity that should be occupying and preoccupying the planning and thinking of a coordinated unit in the government, even bigger than NEMA actually is. So there are other elements of the government, other departments, other groupings in our government that we have to bring all together, given the fact that we're a small country with limited human resources, and to be able to maximize the return from them. We spoke about the need to ensure that we have in place the planning capacity to ensure that these programs that we're talking about are truly implemented as we agree for it to be done, and that a part of the bank's partnership with us is to assist us in ensuring the timely execution of the project in a cost-effective manner.
Meanwhile, Christie explains how discussions with the IMF delegation went today as they were in town for an annual assessment of the country's economy.
With respect to the International Monetary Fund, this is a specific visit that is made annually to assess where the country is in terms of the economy. It is always driven by concern coming out of a recession of debt, the mounting debt that the country faces, and the extent to which the debt will influence or damper our efforts to revive the economy. It was a very comprehensive discussion. It, I think, will aid us considerably in terms of the way forward. It was very frank discussion.
Christie is expected to reveal more about disaster relief in Parliament tomorrow. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
Well, the Ministry of Health launched an investigation into the death of an Eleuthera woman yesterday after the Prime Minister and Health Minister spoke with her family and toured the Hatchet Bay Clinic where she was treated. They also toured the Governor's Harbour Clinic where they announced plans for a mini hospital on that island. Nakia DeVoe has details.
Sandy blew the lid off widespread frustration of what many call a lack of emergency health care facilities on the family island. This after a stroke victim on Eleuthera could not be airlifted due to the storm. Helena Pinder unfortunately died shortly after arriving here at PMH.
Having met with the family of Ms. Pinder this afternoon, we have decided to look into and cause a review of the entire case and management of Mrs. Pinder from the time she entered that clinic until her demise in Nassau.
Health Minister Dr. Perry Gomez commended the staff at the Hatchet Bay Clinic who reportedly kept the stroke victim breathing for 2 days using the bagging method and intubation. He said all the necessary steps were taken and the only thing to blame was the weather. However, his ministry is still looking into the matter. Air ambulances did not get the clearance to travel to that island during the storm. However, Smith Pinder's family still questions whether their loved one would be alive today if they had more advanced healthcare facilities and a doctor on staff. The clinic does not have a ventilator. Prime Minister Perry Christie revealed that the government is committed to improving healthcare facilities on all the family islands to deal with emergencies. Dr. Gomez added that they plan to do more than just upgrade buildings.
To that end, we are looking to have more seasoned doctors stationed in the islands, and people who have gone through postgraduate training, because very often the people who have gone into public practice were people who in the old days were known as general practitioners who had very little postgraduate training and went and learned as they went along in many ways.
The idea of the mini hospital or the polyclinic is to be able to have surgical interventions of a minor nature, but to be able to do sufficiently to prepare the patient for evacuation or for movement to the tertiary institutions if necessary. Yes, I've been a victim myself of the same thing, so I do understand the need for judgment and speed and processing these matters.
Shane Gibson, minister responsible for the National Insurance Board, said he was charged with the task of reviewing healthcare facilities around the country. There are already plans for the mini hospital in Eleuthera and one on Cat Island. The government hopes to break ground on the Eleuthera facility before year's end. It's expected to cost between $10 and $12 million.
They have tentatively selected a site in Palmetto Point next to Unique Hardware, where it is proposed that we build a mini hospital and possibly scale it down to polyclinic. And so that decision will be made after we had further consultation with the residents here in Eleuthera. And we anticipate that the process of selecting a contractor should be concluded before the end of this year. And our goal is to have groundbreaking at least before December of this year.
The Prime Minister said there were always plans for a mini hospital on the island, but the death over the weekend and the fact that the clinic was nearly inaccessible after the storm due to flooding moved the government to make it a priority. MP for Central and South Eleuthera Damian Gomez says an administration building is also on the way. Dr. Gomez says he sympathizes with family members and publicly gave them his condolences. Reporting for NB12, I'm Nakia DeVoe.
Well, the waters in Governor's Harbour were still lashing over the seawall yesterday as the Prime Minister and his assessment team toured the settlement. But according to residents, it was nothing compared to when Sandy was battering the island last week. Former Eleuthera MP and shopping center owner Philip Bethel said the road to and from the settlement, which is on the coastline, became impassable during the passage of Sandy. He said the water was up to the windows of the shopping center.
Over a 3-day period, we had a tidal flow in this particular area from this shopping complex, the police station, straight across the administrative building. But we survived it, and we're resilient. We'll bounce back. But our major concern is the less fortunate people.
Well, the police station was submerged in about 5 feet of water after the storm passed. Superintendent Ismella Davis, officer in charge of the Eleuthera district, said the building needs to be assessed by environmental health and cleaned before officers can move back in. All furniture and equipment had to be moved out.
At 6 a.m. we had a storm swell come from the sea, and the station went underwater. And from about 6 a.m. on Friday morning until about Sunday afternoon, this whole area was impassable. As a matter of fact, we had to move residents and ask residents to please stay and put inside their residence.
Well, the Prime Minister said that the government is looking at relocating the police station anyway. In Rock Sound, Philip McPhee, who is in charge of the airports on the island, said Sandy flooded the airport runway with about 3 feet of water. A lot of debris also accumulated on the runway. Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Works, Renwood Wells, said the ministry is looking at a new drainage system.
It's not completely dry yet. Over in the end over there, a lot of water was still over there. In front of the fire station, we still have water over there, straight back to the sea, going straight back way, and then straight across the ramp was nothing but water.
The engineers would have to come in and do an assessment. Our hydraulic engineers, our environmentals engineers, as well as our civil persons. And so it is something that's actually on the drawing board for us, and not just here with Eleuthera, but with all the islands, because we seem to be having a whole lot of flooding issues.
And as the tour headed farther south, the group encountered Reverend Dan Nixon, a farmer in Wems Bight, who said he lost all of his crops.
Unfortunately, this time around, I've lost just about all of them. And I also, with my livestock, I've lost all of my sheds. But I do feel, by the grace of God, I will bounce back again.
Well, despite the flooding throughout the island and the damage to crops and buildings, most Eleutherans seemed in high spirits and are thankful that Sandy caused minimal damage and no loss of life on that island. Now take a look at this. Our news team cameras were rolling today when police foiled an alleged burglary attempt in southeast New Providence shortly after 1 p.m. 2 young men, one dressed in blue jeans and a t-shirt, the other in shorts and a t-shirt and no shoes, were captured by police as they reportedly broke into a home in Sir Lyndon Pindling Estates. Police were alerted to the scene after receiving a tip. We're also told that the homeowner was alerted to their presence and held the young men at bay with his shotgun until police arrived. You can see the young men, who look as though they're only in their teens, being handcuffed and taken away in a police patrol car. Police were searching the home afterwards, looking for another suspect before they took the young men away. Investigations are ongoing.